Oh Allah, reform my heart, take my hand, guide me all the way, all the way. Oh Allah, reform my heart, take my hand, guide me all the way, all the way.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Mursaleen, amma ba'd, fa'a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Salatu wassalamu alayka ya Rasulallah, wa ala alika wa ashabika ya Habiballah. Salatu wassalamu alayka ya Nabijallah, wa ala alika wa ashabika ya Noorallah. My dear viewers of Madani Channel, welcome to another episode of Silsila, Self-Reformation. Hopefully you've made some good intentions before watching this Silsila. Let's make some additional good intentions. As our Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa alihi wasallam has said, the intention of a moment is better than his action. Let's make some intentions that I will listen to the bayan attentively. Whenever I will hear the name of our Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa alihi wasallam, or sallu al-habib, uskurullah, or tubu ilallah, I will reply with the intention of gaining thawab, insha'Allah azza wa jal. The final Prophet of Allah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa alihi wasallam has said, أَوْلَى النَّاسِ بِيَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ أَكْثَرُهُمْ عَلَيَّ صَلَاةً. Meaning the closest to me amongst the people on the day of judgment will be the one who recites most durood upon me. Sallu ala al-habib, sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Amir Ahl Sunnah, Allama Maulana Muhammad Ilyas Attar Qadri Razavi, Damat Barakatum al-Aliyah, writes the following on page 290 of his book Neki Ki Dawat, Call to Righteousness. And he writes that a strange odor started to come out from in an area of Punjab, Pakistan. After much searching, the local found the source of the bad odor, and it was coming from a closed house. Consequently, the police was informed. While the police broke the lock in the presence of people and entered the house, they were all shocked to see a young man's body there. Some parts of his body had been decomposed and became infested with insects. Seeing the scene, many people, including children, fell unconscious. After investigating, they came to know that this young man had come to this area for work and was living in a rented property, and he became friends with some gamblers. On that day, he won a lot of money from his friends in gambling. In order to rob the lost money, his gambling friends put a rope around his neck and killed him by electrocuting him. Then they left him without shrouding or burying him. They locked the door and fled. My dear viewers of Madani Channel, we've just heard how adopting a bad company leads to a completely loss and ruin, and how the foolish who stays in bad company meets a gruesome end. No doubt, a bad company does not spare a person. Sitting in a bad company is like opening doors to calamities, disasters, and tragedies for oneself. Sometimes these evil friends become grave enemies of their associates and steal their lives for their own personal gain. They ruthlessly throw them into the jaws of death. Consequently, those who adopt a bad company become a sign of warning. We heard about the death of an individual who stayed in the company of gamblers. We ought to stay away from bad company as well, especially the evil company of the gamblers. From the ones who becomes involved in gambling not only squanders all of his hard-earned money, but faces many other losses as well. It is stated in Tafsir Siratul Jinan on page 24 of volume 3, gambling creates hatred, animosity, and enmity amongst gamblers, and this sometimes leads to murder and bloodshed. Gambling causes the wealthy individual to become poor in an instant, and the prosperous home falls into destitution. A well-off individual becomes needy of food and drink. His respect in society comes to an end, and he has no value or honor left in the society. In the greed of profit, the gambler becomes compelled to take out loans, and when he cannot repay it or cannot pay his loan back, then he starts robbing other people. Ultimately, the gambler becomes surrounded by calamities from all directions, such that he eventually ends up committing suicide. My dear viewers of Madani Channel, it is stated, as-suhbatu mu'athiratun, that company has its effect. What can be said about the fortunate one who acquires a good company? Through the blessing of the good company, he begins to adopt good habits and gains deliverance from bad habits. He attains a passion for performing good deeds and gains a standing in society. However, if a person, ma'adallah, gains a bad company, then consider it to be the beginning of his ruin, because the effect of a bad company are extremely destructive. Bad company throws a righteous person from a high standing to a dark pit of lowliness. Evil friends play a leading role in the increase of ills and the downfall of the society. The one who associates with such people will one day also become like them and contribute to the ruins of the society. Amir al-Mu'mineen Sayyidina Umar Farooq A'zam radiyallahu ta'ala states, do not involve in any such thing which does not benefit you, and keep away from the enemy and save yourself from friends, except for when he is trustworthy, for there is none equal to the trustworthy one. And do not be with the sinner, for he will teach you sins. And do not mention secrets before him, and seek counsel in your affairs from those who fear Allah Almighty. Amir al-Mu'mineen Sayyidina Ali radiyallahu ta'ala anhu said, do not befriend an open sinner, for he will embellish his action and present it to you. And he will desire for you to become like him as well. And he will display his worst quality as a good one. Him visiting you is a defect and point of shame. And do not befriend a foolish person, for he will place himself into difficulty and not benefit you at all. And it is possible that he attempt to benefit you at times, but afflict you with harm instead. His silence is better than his speech. Distance from him is better than his closeness, and death is better than his life. Do not befriend a liar either, for socializing with him will not benefit you. He will speak about you to others and speak about others to you. And if you speak the truth, even then he will not speak the truth. Sayyidina Ja'far bin Sulaiman rahmatullahi ta'ala states the following, I saw a dog following Sayyidina Malik bin Dinar rahmatullahi ta'ala. So I said, O Abu Yahya, such a thing with you? He replied, this dog is better than an evil companion. Dear viewers of Madani Channel, we just heard how detrimental a bad friend can be for this dunya and the hereafter. Hence, safety lies in avoiding people when they show shadows of evil. Lest the company of bad people results in people pointing fingers at us and labeling us with bad titles also. Our Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alaihi wasallam has said, avoid a bad companion, for he is a part of hell. Love for him will not benefit you, and he will not fulfill his promise to you. Allahu Akbar. In another hadith, the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alaihi wasallam has said, avoid an evil companion, for you will be recognized through him. It has been stated in a hadith, arrival of morning for you should be in such a state that you are either a scholar or a student of knowledge, or one who listens to the scholar, or one who loves the scholar, but do not be the fifth, otherwise you will be destroyed. It is stated in Bukhari that the similarity of a good and an evil companion is like that of the one who handles mushk and a blacksmith. The owner of the mushk will give you some mushk, or you will buy from him, or if not, fragrance will still emanate. While the handler of the blacksmith bellows will either burn your clothes, or you will get a foul odor from him. Sayyidina Allama Muhammad bin Zahabi rahmatullahi ta'ala states a following waqiyah. He says that a man would sit in the company of alcoholics. When the time of his death approached, he was reminded of the kalima, whereupon he began to say, drink and give me to drink also, ma'adallah. He died without reciting the kalima. A chess player was reminded of kalima at the time of his death, so he said, your king, and after saying this, he died. Dear viewers of Madani Channel, we come to know that adopting good company only brings in benefits, whereas adopting the company of bad people only brings loss for one's religion and dunya. For bad company even ruins a person's faith. Generally, people fear fatal, terrifying and poisonous snakes, insects and scary things, and are successful in saving themselves and do not even pass by a dangerous place. But alas, they find it extremely difficult to avoid a bad company that brings only destruction and ruins. In worldly matters, people think deeply and only take a step when they see benefit for themselves. But when adopting a company, they do not even pay the slightest amount of attention to whether it will prove beneficial for them in this dunya and in this hereafter. And before befriending a person, and even more so nowadays, one must think 112 times before becoming friends with them, rather than regret later. The beloved Prophet ﷺ has said, a man is on the religion of his friend. He should look at whom he befriends. Hakimul Ummah Mufti Ahmad Yar Khan Rahmatullahi Ta'ala states the following: before befriending someone, observe him carefully whether he is obedient to Allah Almighty and His Messenger. Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, وَكُونُوا مَعَ الصَّادِقِينَ, and be with the truthful ones. The Sufis Rahimahumullah say, the human nature has the quality of absorbing things. One will attain greed from the company of the greedy, and piety and righteousness from the company of an ascetic. Sallu ala al-Habib, sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Dear viewers of Madani Channel, we should not blindly trust everyone in matters of friendship, and nor should we sit in the company of those whose personalities are already soiled with many evils. Because when hard times fall upon those individuals, those who are involved in various evils, then those who are linked with them are sometimes affected by that as well. Amir Ahl Sunnah Damat Barakatum Aliyah writes on page 381 of his book Neki Ki Dawat, Call to Righteousness, that Maulana Rum Rahmatullahi Ta'ala states the following while explaining the harm of a bad company. Coincidentally, a mouse met a frog on the bank of a river, and they both became friends. And the mouse said, if I wish to meet you, how can I inform you, as you are in the depths of water and even sound does not reach? Eventually it was decided that a thread should be tied to the foot of the mouse at the one end, and the other should be tied to the frog's foot. Thus, the means of informing at the time of need would be resolved, hence it was done so accordingly. One day, an eagle jumped on the mouse and flew away, grabbing him in his mouth. Due to being tied to the thread, the frog also got pulled out and flew in the air with the mouse. The frog said, this is the punishment of befriending someone incompetent like a mouse. Thus we learn that associating with incompetent individuals and bad company brings about great calamities. Dear viewers of Madani Channel, we come to know that the company of foolish people can ruin us. In fact, its ill effect can sometimes push others into the pit of destruction. Remember, just as the company of alcoholics, gamblers and sinners leads to destruction, similarly, associating with heretics, listening to their speeches, reading their books, listening to their audios, watching their videos, sharing them with others, eating with them and establishing relationship with them is also deadly poison for faith and leads to severe ruins and loss in this world and the hereafter. My dear viewers of Madani Channel, it is written on page 134 of volume 3 of Tafsir Siratul Jinan that attending the gatherings of heretics and listening to their speech is impermissible and haram. And it implies that one is presenting himself to hearsay and misguidance by doing so. Regardless of whether the speeches are based upon Quranic verses or ahadith, it is still not permissible to listen to them, even with the intention of deriving good out of them. It is absolutely possible, in fact, it is usually the case that when explaining the Quranic verse or hadith, the heretic mixes some of his misguided opinions as well in it. And there's a strong risk, rather it has been witnessed, that those who take root in the mind of the one listening to the speech and they become firmly embedded in their heart. This is the reason why the one who listens to the speeches and lectures of the heretics often become misguided themselves. Our pious predecessors were extremely cautious in regard to their iman. Despite being very firm in their beliefs, they would never lend ear to a deviant, even if he would reassure 100 times that he would only read Quran or Hadith. Dear viewers of Madani Channel, there are many ways of saving oneself from bad company. An excellent way is to study books and booklets of Amir al-Sunnah Damat Barakatum al-Aliyah and the Islamic Research Center Al-Madinatul Ilmiya that are published by Maktabatul Madina. Not only does Amir al-Sunnah Damat Barakatum al-Aliyah encourages the devotees of the Prophet to read and listen to a booklet every week, rather, he Damat Barakatum al-Aliyah also makes dua for those who read and listen to the booklet. Therefore, you should make the effort to read or listen to the booklet given by Amir al-Sunnah Damat Barakatum al-Aliyah. My dear viewers of Madani Channel, regardless of whether a grown-up is involved in bad company or a young person, they will definitely be affected by its harms. As compared to the grown-ups, bad companies proves to be more harmful for younger people because they do not have the ability to differentiate between the right and the wrong. If they are not looked after from their childhood, when they grow up, they will become rebellious, stubborn, non-salah offering, gambler, alcoholic, depending on what company they adopt. Therefore, alongside providing the best education to their children, parents ought to take time to spend with their children and educate them of the harms of the society. From time to time, they should inform their children regarding the benefits of the good company and the harms of the bad company, and by doing so, contribute to the success of the children in this world and the hereafter, and make them into upstanding individuals of the society. A wise father became aware of his son becoming involved in a bad company. So instead of displaying heedlessness, he attempted to explain it to him. A child from a righteous household began to associate with a bad company. When his father became aware of this, he explained it to him to beware lest the company of evil that makes him bad also. He replied and said, "Do not worry, father, I will not become like them." The father intended to give a practical explanation to his son. So he brought many plums home one day. The family members ate some of the plums, and when they were about to put the rest of the plums away, the son said, "Father, this is a rotten plum as well amongst them. Take it out." The father said, "Leave it for now and we'll see it tomorrow." When the father and the son looked at the plums the next day, they saw that the plums that were close to the rotten plums were also rotted. The father then explained to his son and said, "Did you see, son, how much a company affects? The good plum also got rotted due to the company of one rotted plum." The child understood and turned away from the company of his bad friends. My dear viewers of Madani Channel, we just heard a method that was adopted by a wise father to save his child from a bad company. He made him aware of the harms of a bad company via an easy to understand with an example and according to his young mind. Thus, the child easily understood his father's point and accepted that just as the bad plum rotted the good plums by being close to them, then it is possible that by remaining in a bad company, I will also become like them. Ponder, think for a moment. On one hand, we have great conduct of such fortunate parents, and on the other hand, we have such foolish individuals in our society who never mind encouraging their children to adopt good company. They prevent them from joining good company. They prevent them from coming to the ijtimas. They prevent them from traveling in the Madani qafilas by providing reasons for them not to attend. My dear viewers of Madani Channel, we heard before, a company has its effect. If a sesame seed is placed in a rose, it also becomes rosy through its company. Similarly, the one who sits in a good company will also begin to take on its colors day by day. How can one possibly be deprived of blessings who benefits from the company of those who possess the enduring wealth of fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, love the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, love for the Sahaba alayhim ridwan and Ahlul Bayt, and are walking examples of the Sunnah. Those whose company increases one's passion for performing good deeds and creates a dislike for sins, and give one a concern for the hereafter. Sayyidina Muslihuddin Saadi Shirazi Rahmatullahi Ta'ala has explained the importance of good company in an extremely beautiful manner. Hence he writes in Gulistan-e-Saadi, which translates to somewhat in the following manner. "I once received some fragrant soil from my friend in a public bath. So I said to the soil, 'Are you mushk or amber? Your pleasant fragrance has captivated me.' Hearing this, the soil replied, 'I was only a soil, but I remained in the company of a flower for a long time. Thus the beauty of my companion had an effect upon me that I also became fragrant. Otherwise, I am the same dust and soil that I was before.'" Sallu ala al-Habib, sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. Dear viewers of Madani Channel, remember, attach the good company of the righteous as much as possible. A human is a human. Even if animal is blessed with a good company, it does not remain an ordinary animal anymore. Rather, its eminence, its importance and status increases several fold through the blessings of the good company and association. Take the example of the dog of the cave Ashab-e-Kahf as an example, which was formerly an ordinary dog, but it began to love and admire the people of the cave, radiyallahu ta'ala anhum, and in its love for those people of Allah Almighty, it became their comrade, a travel companion and a protector. What can be said of the blessing it received from the blessings of awliya, rahimahumullah's company? Its destiny began to shine, and its rank was raised to such a degree that Lord Almighty mentioned it alongside the people of cave in the Quran in the following manner. It is stated in part 15, Surah Al-Kahf, وَقَلْبُهُمْ بَاسِطٌ ذِرَاعَيْهِ بِالْوَصِيدِ. And their dog has stretched his forelegs forward on the threshold of the cave. Sayyidina Imam Abu Abdullah Muhammad bin Ahmad Qurtubi rahmatullahi ta'ala states the following: if a dog attained such a grand status and rank through the blessing of the company of the righteous and awliya rahimahumullah, that Allah Almighty mentioned it in the Quran, then what is your opinion regarding the Muslims who loves the awliya and the righteous and takes from the blessings of their company? In fact, there is reassurance in this verse for those Muslims who have achieved a high rank, meaning there is reassurance for them that they will succeed in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala due to this love and reverence of theirs. Sallu ala al-Habib, sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. My dear viewers of Madani Channel, we've just heard that regardless it's a human or an animal, the one who's blessed with a good company is never deprived. Rather, special bounty and favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is bestowed upon that individual. One way of attaining good company in this age of tribulation is to associate with the fragrant and religious environment of Dawat-e-Islami. Through the blessing of the company of the devotees of the Prophet in this religious environment, many stray people have been rectified, and after repenting, they are living their lives under the banner of the following religious aim, that I must strive to reform myself and the people of the entire world. My dear viewers of Madani Channel, remember, if you have the mindset of self-reformation that I do want to change, the first and foremost thing that you have to do is look at your friends. Adopt good and pious company. Let go of all your bad friends. This is the time these bad friends can make you sink again into sins. So rather than sinking again into the sins, let's start swimming in the ocean of the virtuous deeds. And inshallah, our dunya will be successful, and inshallah our akhirat will be successful as well. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability, give us the tawfiq to adopt the righteous company. Ameen bijahi Nabi Ameen sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa alihi wa sallam.
Oh Allah, reform my heart, take my hand.